Before we approve the agenda tonight, I had a request from Mr. Clark, Woody Clark. He'd like to address the commission. He's got to go to another meeting. And so I'd like to ask you to come to the podium.
Woody Clark, Park Lane. We're coming here this on West River. Like to go have a one-way street with a bike path. So we're trying to find out the procedure to do that.
Oh. Well, so what you're saying, Woody, they'd like to convert West River Road to a one-lane road.
Well, you'd like to do it too. Everybody would like to do it too.
And with a bike path.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. I guess the answer is, and I want to welcome our commissioners, Mr. Pedestris and Budney. Hi, Lenny.
Sorry for being tardy.
No, you're only a minute. And we had a request, just so you know, for Mr. Clark to address the commission because he's got to go to another meeting. And his question was, there's some people on West River Road that would like to know what the procedure would be to ask that West River Road be converted to a one-lane, I guess, northbound?
Bike path.
With a bike path. So
well,
there's a, so.
And Woody was at our meeting last night.
Oh, okay.
And the way I understood it, this gentleman or lady was going to get a petition from the people along West River and present it to us.
Petition, is it one more or it has to be 10 more? For favor or against?
Well, the petition is whether it's favorable or not. That isn't going to be the determining factor of whether we do it. We will take it into consideration.
Okay.
If and certainly we would want to see a majority of the people wanting it.
What's a majority to you?
More want it than don't want it.
Okay, so you only have to be one.
That'd be a majority.
That's a majority?
That'd be a
That's
majority.
What I'm trying to get at.
Because it's not going to be a binding petition on us. It just shows us what the people in the area want.
Right. Okay.
Woody, I'd like to suggest something. In my experience, when you have something that could be potentially controversial like this,
sure.
What I would suggest is, since we're the DPS Commission, I mean, we don't have necessarily purview over that. It's a county road, as you know.
Sure.
But because of all the elements that should be discussed, I wonder if it wouldn't be a better idea to suggest that maybe at our next meeting, people come here. I know people were at the Township Board last night.
Woody was speaking for this.
Okay, maybe we should have in the past in my career, we've established some citizens groups, people that are interested in it,
right,
and meet with a couple of members of our commission. Maybe we could then access the attorney once we clarify what the issues might be. That's a major change that would have to occur, and obviously we'd have to petition the road commission or the Wayne County. The other thought I have is a little bit complicating it right now. Maybe not specifically to the issue you're asking. Is we have this water main project that we've taken bids on, that we hope in the next month to award a contract. But, the idea is our plan is to still pave the full 2 lanes between where the wastewater plant is, north to Church Road. So and that wouldn't hurt because
how much easement are you going to get?
None. No, we know from years past, and you know this well.
It's very hard to get an easement out of there on the people that live on that street.
We're not talking about an easement. We're talking about resurfacing the existing road where it is. The water main would go under the road.
Not much road there, so.
I know. So there's that complication. And maybe the idea to take back, and I'm just throwing it out here, is a couple members of our commission meet with a group of those residents and just start some discussions.
Right.
Maybe prepare a drive-through at some point in the spring to see what other issues might be. I mean, that's been kicked around a little bit, as you know.
I know that.
I know Ted Van Oss has mentioned it in the past as a solution, because even if we pave the road, there's still no safe place for people wishing to walk or run, ride a bicycle on West River, except for dodging the traffic. And we all know when you pave the road, you're going to have faster traffic.
Sure.
And literally at night, you can't walk or ride a bike on it because you can't see all the potholes. So that's a thought.
Have all the people love to wear dark clothes so you really can't see it.
All right. Well, that's kind of my thought. Does anybody disagree with that?
And I'd be more than happy to be part of that. Sit down with those people.
I don't live
and
down
talk to
that
them.
street.
I know.
This one person said he couldn't come, so I came for him and asked the question.
Well, that's a thought, and I guess, Jim, I'm asking you as a township trustee, should it come back to our commission to start with? I mean, you guys have enough other business.
Yeah, it should come through, and I like your idea of a smaller committee from this commission, and I'd be happy to be part of that. But yeah, it should come here.
Okay, so the person will get a contact with you or Bundy and
Yeah,
go from there?
either or both.
Okay.
We could even have a meeting at township office and sit down and talk about it,
Okay.
creating a committee.
Tell them to get
I'm sure there'll be opposition, but there is with everything.
always opposition.
That's right. All right, thank you, Mr. Clark. And I guess you'll make a note of that discussion in your minutes, please. Thank you.
Also, one other thing too, Bill, is that we should include somebody from the bike path advisory.
That's a thought, and even the planning
Yeah.
commission, maybe somebody make them aware of it, because this is a major change.
Right.
There is no room there's no money either to put a extension on the road for a.
Well, and that's, I mean, we really don't know what this is going to garner. I mean, this gentleman that he's talking about, is going to go out and try and get this petition. He might find out that there's 3 people who want it and 30 who don't, and that kind of ends it right there. So
Signage is going to be a big deal. Taking up one-way signs.
There's
That's going to be a big deal.
Yeah,
Signs always been a big
the
deal.
fact that has come up previously, not when we haven't had a ton of discussion on it, but it actually has come up. That hey, what about making West River one way? So I thought start with let's see what your petition, see if it even comes to fruition before we need to do anything formally, even getting a committee together. Let's see your petition first.
Okay, well, very good.
Nobody has thought of this or nobody said anything about it. But the safety, health, and welfare of the people on West River Road, if they needed an ambulance or a house on fire, and this is one way, and you got to go one way to get where you got to go, that's the craziest thing I ever heard of.
That would be one reason you wouldn't do it. That'd be one reason you wouldn't do it.
That's why they should have Duncan or Rusty come to this meeting and tell these people you're out of your mind.
All right, well, that's the reason a committee might work.
And in fact, in talking to Woody yesterday, it doesn't sound like it's all of West River. It's a section that they're talking about. Well, what are you talking about? There's a lot of information to gather before this goes anywhere. So let's not get ahead of ourselves. But I'll be glad to talk to them.
Okay.
And then how do you handle traffic and pedestrians?
Oh,
those are all the things that go into it. Now, yeah, I would think, they're not thinking that yet. They haven't even thought about it.
What's daily traffic on West River?
Not much.
And 4th of July. 4th of July.
Yeah, 4th of July, right.
Well, those are all good comments, and I hope that you'll try to insert them in our notes very
Got it?
very briefly.
Got it.
Read that back to us.
Wait for the petition. Then we'll form the group.
We haven't approved the agenda yet for tonight's meeting, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? Any comments? If not, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is approved. Next, we have approval of the December 12th minutes of our meeting. Comments? I'll notice one thing that thanks to Ryan and Welch and Lorinda, they took care of the elevator problem that was brought to our attention at the last meeting at the wastewater plant. And in short order, that was taken care of. So thank you for taking care of that. One other note, we approved for tonight's meeting setting a date for a public hearing on West River Road. And as a matter of fact, we probably, we haven't had it because we just took bids and they're a little bit complicated and we're looking at the bids. You've got a copy of the summary here. So I'm guessing at this point, if the engineers are ready, we would have the public hearing at our March meeting. Ready to award a construction contract. So moving forward. So it may be well that the West River discussion will take place anyway, Jim, regarding at least our project, and see if there's any comments from them.
I got the impression that they were talking, more church north on this one-way thing rather than where our project is.
That may be.
Talking more church to horse mill?
That's just the impression I got. We didn't. It wasn't in depth. Woody got up to make comments at the end of the meeting. That's the impression I got.
Well, you might be right, because I told him about our water main project. He knew about that, but he said, "No, I'm worried about the area north."
Yeah.
So, might be right.
Yeah. So again, we got to get more information on that.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the review of statements of our revenue and expenditures.
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
we still have to do the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes of December 12th, 2017.
Second.
Well, moved and supported that the minutes be approved.
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. All right, now we're on item number 6. We just have the statement of revenues and expenses. We've had our finance director has been off with the flu, and she's back, but this is all we have. In this statement, I looked through it. This is really just up-to-date accounting for the first 10 months of the fiscal year. I didn't find anything noteworthy. Does anybody have any comments? If not, we'll just receive and file it.
Looks good to me.
Okay, next is public comment, and I want to just introduce that Mr. Mark Graziola is here. What street do you live on, sir? Knutson. Okay, and that's off Church Road.
Off Church, between Church and
Right. And Church is, you're here tonight to talk about roads, to see what we're doing about roads. We're going to have a discussion. Our roads discussion would come up after our lengthy discussion about budget. So I wonder, and I know there was another gentleman that said he was going to try to make it tonight. Doesn't live in your area.
I think he's on island, if I recall.
At any rate, I'm not sure he's going to make it to talk about roads. But you have a copy of some information that Ms. Beneteau gave you. I don't want to bore you with our budget discussions. So should we move into the roads discussion tonight?
That's fine.
Got to help the residents, sure.
Sure. Okay. So the road discussion would really start on in your packets near the end. Page 51 of your packet. And at our December meeting, we reviewed several options. And Mr. Graziola, do you have a copy of this December 12th?
Yes.
Okay. So there were several options we talked about. One was do nothing, and according to the minutes, everybody said that's not acceptable. Another one was do nothing for now. And the implication there was by the year 2026, a lot of our sewer debt and about 4 mills drops off of our taxes. And the idea was, well, just delay things until then. And I don't think anybody said they were in favor of that. And item number 3 in this memo says, ask for a certain tax levy for a specific number of years. And in this packet, the second full page is a list of the cost estimates we put together this summer and fall for several roads, and along with a map and a chart that shows our declining debt. So I don't know how to get this discussion started, but one of the issues we have to do is talk about how long would we want to ask, do we want to go forward with a millage? We have to fund road improvements. Mr. Graziola, we're convinced, we've gathered data, our roads are owned by the county. And I'm talking to the audience on TV too. Wayne County owns our roads. We looked at their 5-year construction plan. No roads on Grosse Ile are in it for resurfacing. They do about 17 to 18 projects a year. That's 17 or 18 miles a year throughout all of Wayne County, from the Grosse Points, Harper Woods, all the way to Gibraltar and our area. And out to Westland and Livonia, Northland, Plymouth, and Romulus. So it's a big area. We don't have a road project, and if one were added, we might be talking about 6-7 years from now, or 8 years having a project funded. Our priority is low as far as Wayne County is concerned because of our traffic volumes. Fortunately, we don't have a lot of serious accidents, fortunately. So anyway, 1 mill raises about $600,000 a year. So the questions we have to decide, and we can keep putting this off, but here's the dilemma. If we're going to put something forward, we have to back up from the November election. The next time we could go to the voters would be the gubernatorial election, which is the first Tuesday of November. To have a proposal go on the ballot, you got to have it approved by the township board 90 days prior to that date. So we're talking by the end of July at the latest.
Right.
So between now and then, it sounds like there's a lot of time, but there really isn't. And my thought is whatever we decide, we need to take a recommendation, and I would like to ask the township board for a special study session, maybe before one of your meetings, to talk about all the things we debated and have a joint meeting with them. It's really a proposal that you got to put forward. So anyway, we really have to decide, what are we going to do? How much are we going to ask for, dollar-wise? How long are we going to ask voters to approve something? And would it be a mill, or a half mill, or a mill and a half, a mill and a quarter? Could be any one of those things. I'd like to get some input from all of you. I was looking at this page 53, and we put together a list of projects. And when I say 53, Mr. Graziola, it's this chart. Okay. And it shows, this was arbitrary, but based on driving around with our engineers. The number one project was Meridian, right through the heart of the township, from Grosse Ile Parkway to Horse Mill. East River from Ferry Road to Park Lane by the Presbyterian Church. We listed number 3 as East River, Manchester Boulevard to Macomb. Then we had Church Road, widening of Church Road, and the resurfacing of Church Road. And then we listed Bellevue. And if we had 1 mill, we could do all those roads. The idea that we have to discuss is, do we do it $600,000 a year, or do we get the money in place for like a dozen years or 10 years? I mean, this was based on, arbitrarily again, 12 years. Would we sell a bond and get them all done within a 2 or 3 year period? Or do we go 10 years, which means by the year 2028, we complete these roads. And like, for example, Church Road, we'd have to save for 2 years to do it. I know nobody wants to spend the money for bonding, but in my mind, that's the way, that makes a lot of sense. And I'm not sure the priorities. I was talking to John time earlier today about it, and it became clear that, and I drove it again, that regarding East River, that area between Manchester and Macomb, that the worst section, a worst section of East River is from the end of Grow Road here towards Hickory Island up to the Meso Bridge. Right. That road is in really bad shape, and I drove it again today. It's really in bad shape. So we could switch projects around. My thought is, what I'd like to see us do is discuss it tonight, come up with what you all think might be a way to go, and then write it up so we can approve it at our next meeting.
Well, I think our only two options are either 3 or 4, and probably lean. I myself would lean towards 4 with the bonding and doing the improvements as quickly as possible. Like you said, if like for 3 at 600,000 a year or whatever the amount would be, Church Road might take 2 years to do, and I think the people would want to see us move a little quicker than that. I keep hearing Church Road should be your number 1 priority. But of course, where I live, that's what I'm going to hear because I'm very close to Church Road. But Mr. Lemoyne, one of our friends that visits us sometimes, he tells me every other week, Church Road is your priority. So, Steve, I told you I wouldn't forget. I myself, number 1, let's decide between 3 and 4, or if somebody else thinks one of the other options is possible, let's discuss that. And I really don't think I don't think we can go wrong picking a road. There's so many that need it, but you have your Meridian, your East River are probably your most driven roads. Church Road is used a lot, but not by the whole south end, other than church, for church and possibly for school. And that's why it's used so much, because it does draw it for church and school. But I think that has to be up there. I do think church should be in the mix for the, one of the things that we're definitely going to do.
Anybody have an idea what to throw out?
The tougher, I look at our list and you go, what would you throw, where would you go? And I go, they all need to be done. They all need to be done. So it's more, I'm more for, how do we figure out how to pay for it? How do we, figure out the millage and the length of time?
I think the first thing we need to do before we can crunch those numbers is how much money are we going to want? What are we going to do? This the whole page? Are we going to cut a few off of here? In other words, I think if we start with number 6, how much money is going to be needed to address what we want, and then we can compare a millage increase to bond cost and how we want to structure it.
I think there's another factor, too. The last 2 road millages that went down, you need to look at both of those. We can't kid ourselves and say, well, we were only 200 or 300 votes from a passage, because if you look at a sample of the 2, that's what Mr. Loftus seemed to suggest. He said that's about the best sample that we have, or words to that effect. It shows you what the public opinion is on the types and both the popularity for either. So we were focusing, the last time we discussed this, we were focusing on the most recent proposal, but I think the other proposal had over 5,000 voters. It might give you, 60% or whatever the election base is. Might be more than that, might be 75. I just don't have that number right in front of me, but it was a big one. So whatever we do, you ought to look at both.
Well, you look at John. You look at them, but we really don't know.
Give me one more thought there. If you look at both of them, you know how many voted yes and how many voted no. So that's not cost accounting, that's just simple arithmetic. And you can figure out from an arithmetic standpoint the percentage of yes and the percentage of no. But if you look at the types of millage, one was more specific than the other because the second most recent that only fell by the wayside by 200 or 300 votes, that one was a combined millage. So we know a couple things that the specific millage percentages could be a good indicator on a specific millage. And I'm just for that. So I look at 3 rather than 4 because we can't do enough. We're not capable of reinventing the wheel to the point where the roads are good out here. And we're out of formula. We talk about this all the time. For whatever reasons, we're always out of formula. And because of that, the county's not going to look at our streets like it does West Road. And so we do benefit from county travel, but not directly on Grosse Ile. So most everybody that has to work some distance away from the island hops on West Road, and I'm really glad it's paved.
Right.
It was terrible when it took 6 or 8 months to pave it. That was terrible. And I'm sure the businesses suffered too. And the same thing with 4th Street. So, we're not in formula, but once somebody crosses the county bridge, they're going to be shortly driving on what the county has recently paved. And to kind of compare it to another argument, used to be, well, the county doesn't spend any money on parks on Grosse Ile. But the thing is, Elizabeth Park probably has the nicest park in the whole county. So those are kind of like political explanations that really don't have a lot of sincere weight to them if you carefully review them. Now, the electorate base out here is very intelligent for the most part. So when you're trying to figure out what they might be interested in, you need to consider all of the arrows in your quiver, which includes both elections. And it just seems to me, based on what I heard in this most recent election from the electorate, and I'm not talking about the numbers, I'm talking about what I would hear, that you don't want to combine anything. The mishmash approach probably isn't a good one. And a specific approach is, which road is the worst? There's a lot of bad ones. So you just can't, and this gentleman's here tonight, we could say, well, Church Road's the worst, yeah, let's go with that. And maybe that's what the gentleman wants to tell us. But whatever we do, you're not going to have enough money to do it all. So that brings me to another concept, and that is some people didn't like chip sealing. I think it was a really good idea. And so maybe we ought to isolate in a small section someplace because the chip sealing was what, $50,000, $60,000, something like that. And you really do accomplish quite a bit with that. Route 72 up by Les's cabin, that's chip sealed up there. I recognize some of the roads out here, you cannot do that, but we shouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater. So the chip sealing worked. If a particular resident or two didn't think that was a good idea, that's too bad because it looks like it really did work. When applied properly, it does work. Now, that doesn't solve a problem on a street like Church Road, but it might solve other, even short spaces of problems. Like maybe what you're talking about, very close to Manchester on East River. Maybe there's a spot in there, and I ride bicycles all over this place, and there are spots in there that are bad. Maybe you could chip seal one, I don't know, 100 yards, whatever it is, because that really makes a big difference. And there's the political monkey business with the county, but if they say yes, I say spend 60 grand on a piece of road like that, because if that fixes it in a reasonable, acceptable fashion, it won't be as good as a full pave, but then you can go to another street. If you don't use all of your resources and apply them carefully, you're never going to have enough fingers to plug all the holes in the dike. So there's about 4 concepts there. And leaning back toward, I think, specific millage for a specific area, which would not exclude a chip seal in another area.
John, you're right about the chip seal. The only thing I can say is any of these roads on this list are not eligible because they're too far deteriorated.
Some might not be, but the other thing that I know, and I'm not suggesting chip seal everything, but one thing I do know, on foot or on horseback, you can't look at a road and figure out how bad it is. So in construction litigation, what they do is they take actual core sample borings in different areas. They delve down and pull out a peg, an asphalt peg, and they pull them out in a few different spots, and they see what the composite is and what the deterioration is. There's probably some ultrasound application, Les might know, which may also lend itself to really making that determination. So kind of what we do here is a good faith effort, but there might be ways that we can deduce what roads are really too bad to chip seal other than driving by on foot or on horseback. That's all. It's more empirical.
John raised the question earlier, and I have the answer. At our October meeting, we had this information. In 2010, we asked for $1 3/4, which was really to restore that $1 3/4 that the township levied for 20 years for roads. It failed on a 2-to-1 vote margin, 2,034 yes to 3,229 no. Then we came back in 2015 and asked for the combined millage where we had water main and roads, but we were asking for $18 million. And that failed by 1,075. That was a special election. 1,075 against 1,360. So John makes a good point. And that's what we're talking about, is how do we put something together that might be acceptable? Maybe the 2 mills is too much. The $1 3/4 was too much. What can we do with 1 mill or $1 1/4? And how many of these can we pave? One other thing I should mention, talked about that this doesn't deal with. There was some talk at the last meeting, if you remember, maybe we should go forward and do the worst roads now, then in 2025 come back with another request once the other millage drops off. To allow the other roads at the bottom of this list. Some of those, and do whatever we can do to chip seal in areas where we can do low cost maintenance. And I think Church Road is a good candidate.
One of many.
I look at Church Road, if we were to do all these, say we were to do this first group in the first 2 years, let's say. Yeah, you can come up in a minute. But it's tied in with either East River or Meridian at the same time, there's going to be traffic problems. Probably the busier road is Meridian. Maybe you could do Church Road when you do East River. But, neither road's going to be blocked off entirely anyway.
Right.
So that's something to think about. And are you Mr. Victor Brown?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Brown communicated with the township supervisor and then myself. So you're welcome to join the discussion. We moved it up on our agenda. And Mr. Grazioli, you wanted to speak?
Yeah.
You can come up right now.
Okay.
Maybe you'll have something to say here that we can kick around.
I live on Knutson, but my main reason for coming is not Church Road, although I drive it every day. And I realize how it's an issue because it's not wide enough. And I believe at one time I read that it's the second most used east-west road on Groseal.
Probably.
Other than Groseal Parkway, I guess. It would be number 2. And there's other issues on widening. I think people complain about trees and stuff like that. But I don't live on Church, and I use it every day. But my concern is more in general with the roads on Groseal and the fact that twice it lost in voting. And I voted for the repair of the roads because I believe in taking care of the infrastructure. It was an interesting point here about voting and timing of voting. If you time your vote for when there's a general election, or election for a governor, you're going to get big turnout. You might lose. You might be better off when there's not a big turnout, but I don't know. But my main reason for coming is to get information on the roads, because I was really, the last time it lost by so few votes, I thought, oh my goodness, how could it not pass? And I didn't go out and find out. I mean, I read what I read in the paper, and I did not go any further than that. But this time I decided, if you're going to do it, that I'm going to try to get involved from the voting aspect, from finding out what's going on and trying to get out and talk to people about what's going on. I don't think I have to talk to them about the need for roads. Any place that I've gone with meeting with people in Grosse Ile, they tell me the roads. Now, it's unfortunate the county owns the roads, but we live here. And, you know, we're a pretty affluent community. We ought to be able to take care of our roads. So what my main purpose for coming was to find out what you plan on doing and just communicate that back to some of the people that I meet with on Grosse Ile and see if I can build up some interest in repairing the roads and paying for the roads. I live on, like I said, Knutson, and, you know, a few years ago, well, no more than a few, I guess, maybe 10, they wanted to raise the bridges. So the people along the canal had to vote on a millage, separate, or assessment, I guess it was, on our tax bill. And it passed. And it passed because people that used the canal were having issues with the height of the bridges, and it really didn't cost that much to raise the bridges while there was some road work going on. So I think people are receptive because they do drive the roads. So like I said, my interest is more general, not particularly, although church I drive, but I'm not arguing that we do church number one or anything like that. But that's why I'm here. And so the other interesting thing I heard was, you know, you've got some millages, apparently some bonds that are running out, so you can act now and then use your list for later on to have a systematic plan, a 10-year plan for your roads. And I'm a big proponent of planning out in the future, 5-year plans, 10-year plans for maintenance, particularly. And then it's done in an orderly fashion. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you for your comments. Mr.
And thank you for your help. That's part of what we need is the community to get involved. You know, the first millage really I think at that time a pamphlet was sent out to everybody,
yes, right.
And that was pretty much it. This last time around, we talked to a lot of people about it. But one of the big issues that we were fighting was their Wayne County roads. Well, now, since it didn't pass and a couple of years have gone by, people understand what we were saying then is they're not going to be fixed by Wayne County. You know, it is going to be, we're going to have to do something. And
County, you know, I lived in Riverview for 25 years before I moved here. Been here since 1991. And the roads, I'm not talking about just plain like snow removal is a good example. Man, Riverview snow removal was super. I mean, we got a little snowfall and everything was gone. And I talked to a fellow that worked at DPW, and he said, Mark, that's because it's such a small community, and we have a DPW and you have to have at least 2 or 3 trucks. Well, that's enough to take care of the roads in Riverview. When I got here, I was totally shocked with the snow removal. And then I found out, well, it's because the county does it, you know, and we're low on their list. So, but they're doing a better job now than they did before. But I got used to it. I bought a 4-wheel vehicle.
So you could get out of your drive.
But, you know, and I've got a daughter that lives in Novi, and, you know, now these new subdivisions, the city's not responsible, so they have to hire their own snow removal. And my goodness, she has the same problem I have. I mean, once she gets out of the subdivision, she can go. But until she gets off the subdivision, it's kind of tough. And for me, I got to get to Church Street. Even in the winter, it's better than my street. But so that, I just believe in taking care of our infrastructure, and so I decided to get involved.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Brown, you can speak anytime you wish.
I would reiterate some of what has already been said. Reality is setting in. The cavalry are not coming from Wayne County or any other place. We have to take care of our own, right? Our own needs, our own responsibilities. I think Grosse Ile has a long history of being prideful about, and rightfully so, about what we do and make it a place that people want to live. And that means being responsible in a consistent fashion. So there is not a realistic choice to this. It's how best we do it. And I would agree with what was said earlier, perhaps John, of a standalone issue is much better than a combination of things, a mishmash. I think that puts people off. It's more difficult to understand it. There might be reasons to do it, but I think it's much better to isolate the issue and say, this is a roads issue. This is going to make a difference in how you experience driving around the island. This is important. And obviously it is. So I would say that. And I think probably the sooner the better. And my own opinion is, I know we have 2 elections, right, coming up this year. My own opinion would be the first election. And I think it's a good thing that a lot of people would be coming out for various reasons, the better representation of the entire island. I think there is, common sense here, and I think that will come into play as far as a victory, for this. I would say in particular regarding Church Road, I do happen to use that particular road, have used it for a number of years. And for more than just maintenance reasons, I would consider widening of that road. A lot of children play up and down. It's used by bicyclists of all ages, again, a lot of kids, walkers, joggers, you name it. I think we should give safety considerations a priority in a case like that, and do it right. Do the widening. And the trees, I love the trees too. We plant trees as well as preserve them, but safety is first for those kids and others, using it. So I would put that emphasis down.
Before you leave on that subject, I would just say, I think you have a copy of the information we're referring to.
Thank you. Yeah.
The cost estimate that was prepared it was a 2-foot widening is all.
Okay.
Because the road pavement is barely 9-foot lanes.
Yeah.
We were going to widen off one side and cover the ditch off that side.
Right.
There was minimal tree removal because there is a sidewalk. We would also repair the sidewalk on the south side of the road. Make sure that it was a good functioning sidewalk. That was the plan.
Okay.
Now the area from the canal to Meridian, where the major trees are, we would try to get a sidewalk in there in those front yards somehow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But with those mature trees, we were just going to pave the existing road and not widen it there.
I see.
That little stretch, and try to go inside on the south side and see if we can't get a sidewalk easement in front of those front yards. And we've done it before, where you can screen the front yards with a landscaping buffer.
Okay.
These are the people.
Good.
So at any rate, those are good comments. I appreciate it.
Okay. Well,
here's the thing about the trees. It's almost a catch-22. Because a reforestation program that's advertised and obvious would be much better. These big trees are great. The neighborhood I grew up in had unbelievable trees, huge, 70, 80 footers, city streets. They formed a canopy in the summertime, shaded everything. It could rain slightly, and you wouldn't feel it. You could walk down the sidewalk, and you'd never feel it.
Yeah.
All those trees are gone. The Dutch elm disease took them, and there's disease out here. The ash borer has given us problems. So eventually, the trees you're talking about on Church Road,
They're
not going to be there.
not going to be. Right.
Eventually, they won't be there.
Right.
Now, it's one thing to realize that. It's another thing to sell that. I think the way to sell that is provide a reforestation, how minimal or maximum you can, as a counterbalance to the people who really love all the trees and hate to see a single tree cut down. There's a very nice subdivision over here. It was enhanced and built a number of years ago, and there was a massive tree. Les might remember. There was a massive tree, was 200 years old, they said. And it was right at one of the entrance areas for the street that would have to feed that subdivision, which now exists and throws quite a bit of tax dollars to the county and the township and everybody else. That tree came down. It supposedly was 200 years old. It had to go. So if you're looking at progress, trees probably shouldn't be an impediment to whatever progress we're trying to make. It's hard enough anyways.
Right.
And as a counterbalance, maybe some reforesting in certain areas. There's plenty of dead wood around here. All you got to do is drive up Meridian Road and you see dead wood in the forest all over the place.
Sure.
Maybe it's time to explain that some trees have to go, some already have, and we can place some new trees in certain areas. That might be a counterbalance, it might not. But logic should prevail at times. I would hope.
Very good.
All right, would anybody like to throw out, thank you for your comments, throw out a proposal, a mill for how many years, what roads to include, and get something specific going here? Anybody have an idea to throw something out? Well, I will.
I think...
Phil, go ahead. You go ahead. Phil's going to throw something out.
Come back to me.
No one else is talking.
I think we should entertain something like a mill and a half, something more than a mill.
Something more than a mill.
Something more than a mill, something less than 2 mills.
What went down in 2010? How much was that?
It was $1.75 million.
$1.75 million?
But we have to also. What happened in 2010 was different than what happened, in our last one. I mean, the what was going on, the issues were different.
Well, this man, mishmash. We don't want that. We don't want the mix.
No, we're not going to do that.
No,
right.
but in 2010, that was the automotive recession in Detroit.
Well, but there, there was a big. It was what was going on. The recession and things like that, and people didn't want more money. They never, and which nobody will ever want to.
Nobody wanted more debt.
But it was a different reasoning than what happened in the last one. And now I really think from talking to the people that I talk to, the residents, they're just ready. The roads are getting so bad. They understand we have to do something, so they're ready. So I think if we have, and I thought we had a good plan this last time. I thought we did our homework. I thought we tried to educate as much as we could. Which I think is a huge factor is talking and having the meetings and having the people come in so that they understand what we're dealing with. The last time, I believe we had 3 open houses, and we had one open house a couple months ago. We had more people at that one open house than we had at the 3. We had almost nobody show up to our open houses, even though they were, we were advertised as best they could. People just were against. There was that big, their Wayne County roads, we're not paying for them. I think that issue has gone by now, and I think the people are ready for a plan, and want to see these taken care of. They can see that they're just going to continue to deteriorate. They're not going to get better, and they're not going to stay the same. They're just going to get worse.
Phil said he was ready to make a proposal.
Is he ready? Okay.
Are you ready, Phil?
Yeah. I was thinking 2 mills, but we figured that's too much.
Yeah.
The issue I still keep coming back to is that if we do $1.5 million for 10 years, we're going to get $900,000 a year. We're not going to get any money for till a period of time after the proposal passes. In other words, we'll have to wait.
It goes on the tax rolls. Yeah.
It'll go on the tax bill. In other words, we'll have to start collecting it. And then we're going to be, before we get enough money to do a third of our projects, we're going to be 4 years into the whole thing. I just feel some of these roads are in that bad a shape. I'd almost rather go for a higher millage for a shorter period of time to get more money to get started. That's what I keep coming back to.
Well, if and along that line, then you probably want to go with option number 4 with the bonding rather than just working off the millage.
And we discussed that last meeting, and I think Ted brought up, several people brought up the costing of that. Because
Supervisor mentioned it.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, you're going to pay interest on the bond.
Yeah, we're going to pay interest on the bonding.
Yep.
We're going to pay fees to get things bonded.
Right.
Well, you pay the fees once.
Yeah, right. We pay them once, but
generally
you're right,
around
then
60 or 80,000.
so I keep coming back to a possible blending, but now we say, well, we don't want to do that because it's confusing to the taxpayer. I still just feel, looking at the condition of the roads and what this winter has done to them, and none of these roads, like any of us, none of them are getting any younger, none of them are getting any less problematic. And I just feel we need to be considering something that gets a significant amount of money going quickly.
Bill, I'm familiar with what a lot of cities do. And a lot of cities, Southfield just did this, Farmington Hills just did it. What they'll do is they'll get a millage approved. And by bonding against it, they can do all their work in 2 or 3 or 4 years. Or 2 a year. In our case, I mean, they're talking about a lot more money, but if you issue a bond, sure, you got to pay interest on it.
Right.
But in today's market, selling municipal bonds, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen to the market with interest rates, but it has been communities with a good rating could sell, and I'm not saying, I mean, I think we figured this at 5%. Safe, but a lot of municipalities are selling bonds for a short term, like 12 years. That's a short term. For 3.5%, 3 3/4, 4.25%. That's not a bad interest rate. Just saying, I'm just throwing that out to you. So I agree with you.
The concept would be pass the millage and bond against it.
That's exactly right. And say to the people,
blend of 3 and 4.
Maybe part of our plan is we say within 3 years we're going to do all these roads.
Well, I can go along with that then.
And that's kind of a plan. Mm-hmm. And then everybody's going to get mad because they want their road done first. But I mean, that's kind of a concept. So if you were to say, for example, you see what $1.25 million brings. Nothing magical about that. I mean, does that sell better than $1.5 million? Probably.
Just a couple things. We probably have established a pattern of some success, in addition to the chip sealing, wherever it is, with Manchester, because we really did repair Manchester up and down, took 2 shots at it, and I think the result was pretty good. So that's an east-west. Ferry is, Bellevue is, Church is. Why don't we just take a look at Church Road and specifically go after that? Say we're going to widen it 2 feet, and we need millage for that. Tell them. Because you really can't, you put these roads in a raffle bin and start picking them out, that's about what you're doing. And I'm thinking the east-west do make sense. We have a little bit of a pattern of doing that. And if you look at Church Road, the reason why that's important, you got 2 churches on there, pun intended. And in addition to that, you got all the Little League and all the sports, and you got schools over there. So you've got a couple of big subdivisions. Jim lives in one, the other one's on the north side of Church, but those areas are big subdivisions that feed out into another street. So I think a lot of people probably use the county bridge, and so they're going to feed to an east-west, then Meridian Road, and then they're going Parkway and off. So it seems to me like more people would get a benefit of a paving on an east-west, and it looks to me like Church is one of the areas where they'd benefit more than anybody else.
Are you saying just go for Church Road?
You could do that, or pick two. Pick Church and something else, and widen it 2 feet. And just see, whatever we say, somebody's not going to like it.
Right.
But
I don't agree with that.
For the majority of people.
I'll tell you what, John, I don't agree with that.
And
the
in
busiest
fact-
roads are Meridian, East
And-
River, they're very dangerous, and Church Road.
Well,
So to my mind, they all got to be top priority.
Right, and in fact, we had this discussion for the last millage, and we started out with just Church Road. And what we came to the conclusion, and basically I think it was almost everybody here except Brenda and Lenny, that the one road, you're going to lose the people on the south end. The south, north, middle of the island, everybody uses Meridian, everybody uses East River. Those roads are traveled. I think they have to be in the mix. Myself, this is
might
my
push
thought.
the number too high is what I'm thinking. The paving number too high.
Well, here's your cost estimates right here.
I know. If you do 2 roads, whatever they are, and have a proven track record of being able to get the voters to approve and then accomplish it, you can go out again for something else. These millages are going to expire out. We have not enough money to take care of everything, period. So if you want to pick 2 other roads, you don't think Church is good, then pick a couple others. But pick 2, very certain, specific, go with those. $1.5 million, 2 mills. I don't think it matters to the people whether it's $1.5 million or 2 mills. But the more you stack, the weaker your house of cards gets, and the more probability of the cards falling over. That's what I think. From an election standpoint.
Well,
you got to get it approved.
Right, and we have like three breakdowns.
And these are going to be rough because when you go back in and do these again, I bet the numbers are a little different.
These cost estimates were prepared for 2019 and 20 construction. We did it this summer specifically for that purpose, John.
I would be surprised if the numbers don't change a little bit.
They probably will. There's no question. But as me personally, I think if you just go for one road and then come back a couple years later for another road, I don't like that at all.
No,
I'll just say that.
I say go for 2.
No. I want to, in my mind, if we're going to go forward with something, you got to do Meridian. You're talking about basically 2-3 miles of Meridian in East River, and you got to do Church. Some of the others, Bellevue is falling apart. And Ferry's not far behind it.
Well, if you want to pick a couple of roads, which ones do you want to pick?
Well, okay. I'd rather pick these segments and say, okay, here's what we're going to go for. Segment number 1 that has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 projects. That's I
didn't add it up, but what are you, $5 million there?
$6 million.
$6 million.
It's right here. It's right there, John. There's the figure.
Well, I was looking at the top numbers. I was doing.
And then when that's done, if you want to say, okay, then segment number 2, segment number 3, but I think we have to do more than.
If you go with a segment,
a road or 2.
What millage do you want if you go with a segment on a specific mill basis?
Well, when we put all the projects together, John, what happened is the engineers came in with the estimates, and then arbitrarily, I worked with the finance director, and we said, what will 1 mill get us if we bond for it? What will $1.25 million get us if we bond for it? And it came down to these.
But those are all based on bonding.
Well, they are.
Yeah. What I'm saying is, straight mill, what's a mill for segment 1?
So then that's the question we have to decide. Do people want to, let's say you get $1.25 million. Do you want to spend what would that be? About $750,000 a year, and do $750,000 every year without bonding, which means by the year 2028, we'd complete
2030.
a lot of these.
2030.
Or 2030.
Yeah.
So,
2030.
so do you want to do that? Which I'm not in favor of. We need to fix these roads right now.
Yeah. So you got to bond it a little bit.
I think you got a bond.
You got to bond to get.
Yeah.
What I'm looking at is there's $38 million the taxpayers are paying right now for a project that was forced on us. Another $7 million on top of that for some litigation. So we're $45 million negative based on what was pushed at us, and people realize that. So that's why I think if you go for too big of a nut, you're asking for defeat one more time. It's like the Hail Mary pass, okay? Gronkowski couldn't catch it. And if we don't catch the ball, the millage goes down again.
So that's a good point. And is it 1 mil we want to go for, $1.5 million, $1.25 million? Maybe we ought to, Phil, you were going to make a proposal.
No, I would lean, personally, I'm going to step away from the commission right now and just speak as a resident. And like Ron said, I want to see a plan. As a resident, I don't want to just say, well, we're going to do church and then we'll kind of see what might happen next year. I want a plan to fix all the roads. I think we need a plan to take to the voters that said, this is our plan to fix these roads. Because every road on this list is in bad shape and needs to be addressed. And whether the road I might think is most important is done first or last doesn't really matter if it's on the list. I want to see it on the list.
And it gets done.
Right. And it gets done. Correct. But I would go for 2 mills, and we would have to bond it. I would present to the voters what we're asking for, how we're going to spend that money, and I would have a plan as to what roads we're going to do when. That's speaking from how I would like it presented to me as a resident.
One segment, a rolling segment. What are we talking about?
Well, we have two members in the audience. What would they want?
3-year period.
I think that's too ambitious.
So, Mark, if you're going to speak, you're welcome to come up to the podium. I invited you to be here. So you can be heard on TV this way.
Yeah. You're getting to be a rock star.
Don't have to wear a name tag or anything. No, I just think you do need a plan. And the more roads that if these are the bad roads, and these are what your engineers are telling you, and some people here are telling you because they've driven the roads themselves, then you should get all the roads. That's where you're going to get more people voting for this. And I realize if people don't live on one of these roads or use one of these roads may say, I don't care. You know, I can use the Parkway and I can get over the Free Bridge and I'm on West Road and I'm away. But there's a lot of people here in all of these roads. And if they're driving them and as bad as we say they are, they're going to vote for it. And, you know, your plan should be that you go for the millage, and if you need authority to do bonding, but you do the bonding as you need it, as you move your projects forward. And down the road, you know, your existing millages or the existing bond obligations are going to go away, and by 2024, but you're going to have a lot of these roads done in the meantime.
Well, the way this would work, if you have a certain number of years, 10 or 12, and you bond within that number of years,
right,
you'd be limited to that number of years.
Yeah, but that would be, if you bond for 12 years, that's beyond where these other bonds close out.
Oh, yes, that's right.
4 mills.
Right. That's my thought on it.
Okay.
Long-range planning.
What the
Yep. Yeah,
What they did back in 1970 was the federal government said they were going to stop delivering mail because the roads are so bad and the mail trucks were getting all tore up. So they went out and they looked at the roads and they put a village out to do all the roads. That was East River, West River, South Point, Bellevue, Ferry Road, Church Road, Horse Mill, Park Lane, and they did it. But they forgot to do Macomb Street. But Macomb Street finally did get done because Ajax, they were the winners of the bid, and Ajax said, well, we got to rebid it, and the county got their nose stuck in it. Ajax told the Gros Ile what they would do it for, and the county says, oh, it's got to go out to bid. Well, that added a few more $100,000 to the project when they got through bidding it with the county. So we got all the roads done back in the early 70s, and I don't know if John remembers that, but
I
none
remember
of you...
when the traffic was not the traffic, but the road conditions were unbelievable. You would laugh driving down Grosse Hill Parkway. You would start giggling because you were bouncing so much. And the same thing with Church Road. And Jim Bundy must have lived out here then, so he'd know. I mean, it was ridiculous. They were much worse than they are right now.
Absolutely.
They really were.
Absolutely. I mean, I've been here since '62.
Well, you
so
can
I've seen
see
a lot of change.
The original pavement is still on Bellevue, except half of it when they put the sewer project down Bellevue. Ferry Road, East Ferry Road is the original. We paved West Ferry Road with millage, and I say we, when we had the road committee, that was one of the roads we selected to get done. Horse Mill was another one that the township paid for to get done. And that's not original. That was redone by Grosse Ile Township. So it can be done. So if you want to put this out there, I tend to agree with what John says. We got to look at Church Road. Church Road is an accident waiting to happen. If you've ever driven down that road when a garbage truck or the school bus is going down that road, man, get out of the way. You're either going to go. I can't believe the school bus hasn't gone in a ditch yet on Church Road.
Well, and that is there's no doubt it's narrow. There's no doubt it's bad, but there haven't been the accidents. I mean, so we have to think of everything. But yeah, everybody, I mean, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people say, Church Road's got to be on got to be on the list. I think we know that.
Well, it is.
So. And I agree with Bill. We have to do and Phil and our residents here. We have to have a number of roads in our project.
Then pick the first segment.
Can I just comment a little bit on the concept here, which I think to pass the millage, we need a consistent message that everyone counts. Everyone's road matters on Grosse Ile. We're one community. We're not segments. We're not, particular roads. We're all together. We can potentially use any road. And, we're going to get to everyone's road. If they need it, right, we'll get to it. So they are part of this, too. There certainly needs to be priorities in terms of the conditions of the road, the volume, the traffic volume, how much it's used, safety considerations, like in Church. Those things, those are the criteria we would all use for setting priorities, which ones we get to first, and so on. But everyone matters. Everyone counts. That's the message, in my opinion.
What's the solution here? You're going to have to tell the people what roads. I don't think you can just say, here's what we need for millage and we'll do a good job. Because, they heard a lot of bridge noise and SSES lawsuit noise, and you don't want to tell them that because they're probably going to be skeptical.
Bill, you proposed 2 mills. Do you think we can sell 2 mills? versus $1.5 million?
I don't see the difference that significant to turn away voters. That's where I am when you.
I don't either. I agree with that. It's the rest of the application in the 2 mills. You got to have specific projects.
It would just be roads, John, and
Well, no, I know, but you got to have specific roads. You got to tell them.
We have them.
That gives us a number, and that's what I said initially. We need to know how much money we want before we're going to say how we're going to spend it.
yeah.
We could spend 3
I'm okay
mills.
with 2. I'm okay with 2 mills. Jim, what do you think?
$10 million.
Well,
Well, you're a
can.
resident. You're a resident.
You put socks on next time, I'd appreciate it.
Summer's coming. Don't quit your day job. What really matters, I love all this bantering back and forth and trying to figure this out, but at the end of the day, whenever I've seen these things go forward in lots of communities, they show you if your house's taxable value is 100 and whatever, your taxes are going to go up by this amount of money, okay? So I think we need some kind of a chart, because they don't know what mills are. They do, but they don't. They don't know what a mill's worth.
We've always done that with every
Yeah. So I just want to make sure that gets out there so that, because they're going to look at
What's it going to cost me?
what's
What's
going
it
to
mean
cost
to
me
me?
a month or a year or whatever.
I agree, it should be simple, based on a taxable value of, say, not a taxable value, but
Pick a number that's-
assessed value of 100,000.
Yeah, pick a
Because then
number
you can work above and below that,
do the math.
very simply.
But pick a number that's
Anybody can do the
realistic
math
on this island. You can't pick a low number because
No, what I'm saying, Jim, if you use a number like 100,000, somebody's assessed value is 300, they can triple that number and figure out what it is.
okay.
It's easy.
If some guy's got
Okay.
50, not
Yeah,
100,
okay.
he can half that number.
Right.
If somebody's $1.50, he can go 1.5. So that's a
Sure.
very easy conversion rate
yeah.
that anybody
Yeah.
can make.
Yeah.
And then you
Easy
math. And hopefully
service
they'll do that.
everyone.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I have. Short-winded tonight.
Well, you've been around a long time.
What do you mean? I'm 70 years old. Okay,
You think we can sell 2 mills?
I'd like to try. I really think, in my opinion, these roads are disastrous. I think we need to find the quickest way that we can fix as many roads as we can, realistically, with the money that we can generate. I don't like hearing that, well, 10 years from now, this road's going to get done. First of all, I'll be under the road probably by then.
A lot of us will.
I could be dead. So I'd like to see some of this before we all check out. It's a great place to live, but man, without decent roads, we are going nowhere. I'm just preaching to the choir here, obviously, but at the end of the day, I want to move. I want to get it out there and let's go.
Well, there's no doubt, based on what we started this last summer.
Right.
First tried to answer the question of people that were saying, let the county fix them, is the county's not going to fix them. Then we went out and got these cost estimates done. If you look at this map that I think you gentlemen have all seen, we've all seen, it shows widespread improvements all over the township. No question in my mind, Phil, you could do this for the 2 mills and include in it, as John suggested, a lot of extra money for maintenance, such as chip sealing in other spots.
I think some of these
Some of
roads
these
on
could
the
even be
list
chip
even
sealed.
could be chip sealed.
Some of these could be chip
I think
sealed.
South Point could be chip sealed
Yeah.
instead of fully.
So, you could put a plan together based off that, and it might even be less than 2 mills.
The last time the water was with the roads, and I might have had 10 residents say to me, if you hadn't put the water in there, I'd have voted for the roads. Now,
Mishmash.
I know. So obviously we're not going to do that, and that's good. And I just want to do something. I want to get rolling.
All right, so
Anything else from me, Mr. Chairman?
you can stand right there. Yeah.
Yeah. Just stand
thank
the
you.
rest of the.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I can sit down now.
So, I don't know, am I hearing there's an agreement to look at a 2 mil parameter?
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
You might as well try. I wouldn't go above that. And I don't think it matters if you quarter it. The chart that Jim talked about is a good idea, using 100,000 of actual tax base that the millage will apply to is probably reasonable when you generate your depictions, because it can be converted up and down without any problem at all.
This map pretty much reflect the worst roads? I mean, we all drove.
I don't think you can miss. If we miss the worst road,
if they're not the worst, they're certainly pretty close. No, I think we have pinpointed.
Okay, so what, Phil? We're back to you. 2 mills. See if we can put a plan together with this.
Right, and I think the only thing I saw on the plan that I would suggest we might consider differently is down on the bottom. I mean, of course, I live on the south side of the island, but I don't see, why South Point couldn't be chip sealed. I mean, that would reduce the cost of South Point
substantially.
I don't think any of the other roads that we have listed on this plan could be chip sealed initially, but I also think that we're fast approaching the time that we need to consider the second chip sealing of some of the roads we did several years ago.
Mm-hmm. When was that, 2 years
because
ago?
Because what you find when you chip seal is that if you do it repetitively, the road just stays in great condition going forward.
As I drove today, I thought about that issue. We don't have our road budget before us tonight, but based on the maintenance millage we have, we'll have about $100,000 for construction. Right. We could devote that to chip sealing and see if we could get that would give us give us a chance to do a couple miles.
Correct.
Of the chip seal areas. We did 4 miles, I think, to begin with. And, of course, Horsemill was one of those miles and didn't turn out very well. Only Horsemill didn't. So
that could have been for a lot of different reasons other than the chip.
So the way I look at it is if we start with 2 mills, we then would decide how much we're going to bond immediately to get moving. I mean, there's no sense bonding the whole thing and just trying to do all the roads at once. I mean, bond it as we need to and go forward, and then prioritize on this list and come up with a timeline chart through the number of 4 years, whatever it might take. I would, as to what roads we're going to do when through the next 4 years and get them all done with that amount of money.
And that's specific. And the other thing you have to look at is, I'd call it construction traffic. I haven't thought that through completely, but construction traffic is a problem if you start tearing up a couple of roads at the same time. So that's got to be done by careful thinking. It's just not, you just don't whip it out there, and that's got to be thought through. For instance, if Church Road winds up going on there, schools and summer baseball and all that, you got to figure out when you're going to do that. And the summer baseball ends July 1st or something. But all that stuff, and baseball won't carry the day, but the church goes 12 months out of the year, the other church does. So there's going to be an inconvenience factor that you cannot get around. So you probably don't want to be paving Church Road near the middle school in September or the end of August. Right. You want to be done with that. And there's other problems in other areas.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but yeah, something like that.
And it's got to be
you can go. You go up to Park Lane. You don't want to knock out Canterbury at the same time, because that's an alternate route in. So you have you don't want to hit your alternate routes. That's all part of the planning.
Yeah.
Well, most of these roads, what we're talking about is milling 4 inches. This calls for 4 inches of asphalt off and doing base repairs, and there's a lot of base repairs on Church.
And you're going to widen it too.
And we're going to widen it 2 feet off the one side. So what I'd like to suggest, and if we have some parameters here, bring a report back at the next meeting. How about if I work with you, Phil, to do a draft of a report to bring it back?
Good.
Willing to do that?
Yeah.
Is that agreeable?
You're going to have to go to
We're going to
Florida.
work off this list, taking into consideration the chip sealing, so that I think 2 mills will give us enough to do all this and still have some money to do some bonding and have some pay-as-you-go.
And then figure out what the table would show, because you're going to have to come up with that eventually. Might as well do it on the front end. 2 mills, this is what it's going to generate cost-wise.
Yeah.
Per 100.
Yeah,
Okay.
no problem.
Yeah, we did that.
Simple.
We did that. We did that last time, and quite frankly, we can show a number of them. It's not that difficult, and have it right out there for them.
All right.
Yeah, it's all doable.
On something like that, rather than do, here's a taxable assessed value at 100, here's assessed value at 2, here's at 3, whatever. Give them one example, they can look at it and remember it, as opposed to you give them 7, and I'll tell you what, people look at that stuff very quickly and they don't pay attention to it.
Well,
They get it for a day and then they don't look at it again.
And John, my experience has also been that the guy goes, mine isn't on there. I mean, can it be done? Yeah. So they go both ways.
I can't
John.
believe
they go
that
both
some
ways.
guy's going to say, here's the example at 100. I mean, I used to do charts for the tax bill. You probably saw them for 8 years. I used to do a pie chart, and I showed what percentage of taxes went to each entity. And I got a lot of compliments on that. It was pretty simple.
Okay. Anybody else want to volunteer to work on this plan besides?
I'll help you.
Okay. Very good. So have we covered that issue? Is there enough definition of what we're going to shoot for? Everybody in agreement? Okay. Now we can move on to the other agenda items. And you gentlemen are welcome to stay.
They can't get out quick enough.
Thank you. Thank you very much for moving that up on your agenda. My wife appreciates it.
We're going to talk about refuse, sewers, and refuse. You're welcome to stay for all that discussion.
I used to work in sewers, but that's all right. Thank you again, and I look forward to your next meeting.
And you're welcome to attend. I hope you will.
Welcome.
Okay. Action items. Linda? Action items.
Okay, first up, we have an election of the chairman, vice chair, and secretary for our next fiscal year.
So again, of course, I've been the chairman, but that can be open. There's a vice chair position. Is Phil, John, you're the vice chair, right?
No.
No, Phil is.
So I'm just about to make a motion.
Phil, are you secretary as well?
To keep it brief.
No, listen. So my motion, because
Bill,
we
are
gotta
you
move
new?
this
Are you
meeting
new
now.
to this board?
Talked a lot.
Just confused.
Yeah.
I move to re-elect those standing in their specific chairs for continued additional term.
Second.
Okay? Ready for the
Is
vote?
there any opposition? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Keep by saying it.
Aye.
Well, thank you, Phil. You can thank him.
That was
Les, you can thank him.
No, thank Bill. Thank you, Bill, and Phil, and Les.
Okay. Next, we have budgets. So Lorinda has a brand-new copy. You can ignore what you had earlier.
Or what you have. Keep on through.
Now, I just want to say this. The finance director has been off because of flu. And today, Lorinda, John, and I met with finance director for a few hours. And here, this is supposed to be a
Wash your hands.
more simpler version. Lorinda, I'm going to let you walk us through,
Okay.
and we'll ask questions.
Hang on.
Do we want to take a potty break or something?
Why don't we take a 5-minute break?
Can we take a 5-minute break?
Please.
Let's take a 5-minute break. on Church.
One's right at the end of my driveway, but I haven't even mentioned that one yet.
Yeah.
That's why I drive on your lawn and get around
Okay,
it.
come on over. Just don't run over my church sign.
Okay, Lorinda, you want to move forward on the budget page? Now, these were renumbered, page 1 through 12, I guess?
1 through 11.
1 through 11.
And also in your packets, if you take out page 24 through, what is that? 4 through 28, we'll kind of go along line item by line item. I'm going to try and hurry up and go through most of this and hit the big stuff. So in the handout we just handed out, if you turn to page 11, we're going to follow along. We're going to do the treatment plant first because this is where a majority of some of the work that's going to be going on. Ryan is here from the wastewater treatment plant tonight, but I just want to go over a few items. On the first one, the operator contract, United Waters, it's going to go up. Their CPI, they'll be asking for an increase at our March meeting. It'll be an increase, I think it was 2.7, was it, Ryan? Yeah, 2.7. 4%. Yeah, overall. So that line item, I had to increase it to cover for the year.
And that's based on a contract, right?
Correct.
That's
Correct.
an annual thing.
Yeah. The next line item was their overtime. They haven't been utilizing a lot of it, so I reduced it by 1,000. The lab testing, according to their permit, they're doing a lot more. That's why it's increased dramatically. You can speak to that because I know the testing that Joe had done this past year, and I know Ryan's going to be keeping up with it as well. It's tripled. So that's a big line item. Our sludge hauling, as you all know, the weight limits caused a big jump in the price. Ryan's been coordinating with Waste Management, their Dolphin Centrifuge services, and he has an estimate in the packet that I had plugged in the number here for sludge hauling for next year. That went up 150%.
So it went up $46,000.
Exactly.
When are we due for our next sludge hauling? What? Spring? Okay. That answers that.
Yeah.
The bridge won't be done by
Yeah. Because of the weight limits on the bridge, I know with the chemicals, all those prices have increased as well. Lime has gone up a lot. We used to budget $10,000, and this past year we're already over $12,000, so I increased it to $15,000. Chemicals, $50,000 has been a good budget number. That's been pretty stable, so I kept it the same. Electricity, we budgeted $80,000. We haven't come close to that yet, so I reduced it a little bit. Natural gas, if it's a cold winter, we're going to use more. $12,000 has been used. It's a pretty good number that we've been using. The next big item would be the maintenance on the plant, in the surrounding area, the grounds. Currently, we're under contract for the generators in the plant. Since with the addition with the lift stations, Ryan, you can talk about this, but he got a pretty good deal on a 5-year contract. If we pay up front the first year, we have a savings there. So for 5-year contract on the 7 generators, it's a little over $12,000. So I plugged that number in there as well. That's one of them. The other one is the maintenance on the plant itself. That's the $40,000 figure that we've been using forever and ever and ever. With the addition of the retention basin, we were looking at seeing what the cost increase would be. And we've been looking at it. So every year, I know in the past, Joe has come to us and told us, I'm running out of money. I'm going to need additional whatever it is, X, Y, Z. So, Ryan, if you want to get up and talk about how much you think you're going to need, we just plugged in a number right now. See if that would cover it.
Then I assume, Ryan, you're just going to go into the capital outlay because basically that's...
And that's the other big
those
portion.
other lines items.
Correct.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah, it takes a minute to warm up.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Hopefully, y'all had a nice holiday in that. We were in compliance for the past 2 months. We didn't have any violations in that. Our CPI contract increase is automatic April 1st. As you can see on there, it will move up 9,568. What it will be per year more. The third item is the generator service. It's a 5-year service agreement, which will lump it all into one amount, and we get a 10% savings overall. And we can also cancel it, like let's say if we needed, and there's no fees on that. So that's a big savings.
The agreement with your company?
No, it's with Cummins.
Oh, Cummins, okay.
We've been using them all along.
Okay.
So it's, yeah.
Can I ask a question just about the service agreement? Is this like an extended warranty? Is this, or are we just paying for them to come out and then we pay parts and materials on top of that? Or is this like a warranty?
Yes. It's just services, and then it could be more onto that.
So if something breaks,
you're right.
If something breaks, we'll pay for what broke.
You're right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. For the centrifuge sludge haul from Waste Management, we're having somebody actually come out next week to sort of just scope everything and make sure that it will all fit in with all the moving parts and that. So right now I don't have like a set price for that amount, but sludge wise it looks like we'll be all right till about May, something like that.
Well, the figure that was budgeted, it went up $46,000 from $30,000 to 76, and
yeah.
I assume that you worked with Lorinda to develop that figure.
Yes, yeah.
She led me to believe, based on the Waste Management proposal, that they would handle the sludge.
Yes. Yep.
So they're coming out to just size it up and
size everything up, and that.
At this point, that's the only solution we have to it at this point.
Right now, that's our only option. Yeah, that's our only option with that.
Okay.
Bill, I did look into barging the sludge off the island. It was astronomical.
Sure.
It was off the charts.
Sludge boats, they... All right, well, anyway. You want to go into your capital outlay items?
For our capital improvement, I would say the most important item on there is the fine screening. Actually, just this past week, we had to do a confined space entry into our mixed tank, and we had to pull out a whole wheelbarrow full of rags. So it's, it really affects a lot there. And then, as you know, our third RSP pump, which we have to install that one. The reason why we had to purchase that is it got lodged up with rags, and it just wrecked that one.
Replacing the screen, or there wasn't a screen there before?
No, it's a new system, which has like a scraper, really, which it scrapes all the rags up versus just shredding them, and then they reform in the plant. And I know that fine screen is very expensive, but it's very, very important in that.
This has been on you're the new director, but this was on the plan from our prior director. I know that.
Exactly. The lighting isn't real important on there. It's not super important. The fine screen is the most important on that list.
You want to go through the rest of them? Because I included all of them on your list.
I'm trying. Yeah, let me think about the other ones.
Okay.
The next one was the
Is the
intermediate lift pump upgrade. He
lift
doesn't
pump.
have this list, I guess. Well, these were all talked about at our December meeting.
Thanks, John.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the intermediate lift pump, what will that accomplish for us?
Well, it will save on electric. We actually figured it out that with running one screw, it's about maybe 7,000 or 8,000 in electric, and with 4 pumps, you'll be just your power amount will be what's needed versus just having that screw on full bore. It uses a lot of electric. So with the 4 smaller pumps, we'll save on electric, and it's more efficient overall. I mean, it's a newer technology, I know that.
This was also part of the prior plan.
Yes, it was. Yeah. Yep.
Next is the HVAC for the primary room and the exhaust. That's been in the plan too.
Yep, that's a carryover.
Yeah. HVAC is not, I guess, real important. I guess on that list with comparison, I guess it's not really. That's my opinion.
So we could remove that?
Well, before we do, remember, we've had some exhaust issues before.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Okay.
I think you need to be cautious about saying it's not important because
Yeah, also the corrosion too of some of the
we've put
equipment.
some of these off over the years
Yeah.
and we regretted it.
Yeah, if you need something.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's why I included it, because we didn't get to it this past year. That's why I rolled it over. So,
And it's just like the lighting that comes up next, Ryan.
yeah.
We've
Okay.
had a lot of lighting problems where the lighting is just deteriorated because of the elements in the
Hydrogen
air.
sulfide and everything.
Right,
It eats
in
it
the
up.
plant.
Yep. Yeah.
I assume that you're talking about the control building, the main floor. I know that's the main floor. Isn't as
Yeah.
subject as the lower floors are to deterioration, but it's still bad. The RBC chemical room, I would guess, I've been in that room.
Yeah.
That all the elements that deteriorate the fixtures, they're still the old fixtures, right? They're not the upgraded fixtures.
I believe so. You're right. Yeah.
And Jim, we've been down in there and seen the old fixtures
Yep.
before we replaced them. I guess you have to tell us, it's in the budget, so I assume that it's important for you. We don't want fires or people to get,
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
It is important.
Yeah,
Yes, I
looking-
agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, don't feel the pressure to take things
Yeah.
off.
Right,
Something-
right.
Make
Okay.
sure you stand your ground and make sure you tell us.
And you're kind of new in this position, so I wouldn't
Yeah.
be scraping stuff off.
Yes, I am.
'Cause you might really need this stuff.
Yeah,
so.
come June, you're coming back for triple because you went, oh no, I wanted you to do this instead. Just stand your ground if you need.
I agree.
Tell us.
got to be an advocate, get these
Yeah.
things
Because
done.
what'll happen is, customarily, halfway through the budget, there's normally motions made at the board level to amend the budget to take care of some other additional problems. I think you should just leave everything the way it is, get
way
to
it
learn
is.
the plan a little more, don't kill yourself reading this stuff over tonight. It's putting you in a position that you don't need to be in.
Yeah, don't kick the can on the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, I do want to.
I think you can use every one of these that's on here.
You can use everything on that list.
So I want an explanation, though, on what the monster overhaul is, though.
Let's
West
see.
Channel.
A monster overhaul. It's our channel monsters, which we have, which if we got the fine screen influent, we could scratch that off of there.
Right.
We wouldn't
So the monster
have to revamp that.
So that, okay,
That,
so
that can be
is a-
eliminated
That
if
could
we
be
do
eliminated
number
if we
one.
went with the first
Yes.
one.
And that's if you do it, though.
That's if.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
see, what I'm saying is, if you save the money, it should go to next year's fund balance if you don't spend the money. And that happens a lot of times. It's in the budget, you don't spend it, it transfers to the next year. It should. It shouldn't go into a dark hole someplace. So that's okay to leave everything there, because if you don't do it, then you still have the other problem. You've knocked that off the budget, so then you have to amend the budget. And they customarily do that the last time before they give the annual audit to the state. They amend all kinds of stuff.
And John's right, and one of the issues we've had at the plant is getting everything that we've approved done in the year. So what that means is that, and sometimes Joe, your predecessor, was a little timid in getting things rolling. So sometimes you need the engineer, sometimes you need to go to suppliers. So if we approve these things, which I think we're all in favor of, we are concerned about safety at the plant and the proper functioning. You got to push them through Lorinda, and make sure, keep pushing. Whatever help you need to get these things done, you got to move forward.
Okay,
Your pace,
I guess
that's the other thing. If you have to take care of left field instead of right field, then you have to do that. You got to figure that out. So
certain items are more important, like
we have to
versus other
prioritize
ones,
it.
and I just want to say I'm sorry on that. I didn't mean like.
We know where you were coming from.
No,
It's
yeah.
all important,
Right.
But some of them are more important.
Yeah, should be done first.
Right.
Is all I want to say on that. I didn't just
sounds like the roads.
mean to just scratch it out and forget about
What
it.
you've got to, in your new role, what you've got to be used to is when you need something, you need to come here and tell us, I got a problem.
All
I
right.
need your help.
And the way I listed them, I only listed from high to low. So, I mean, I know number one's the most important to you, but doesn't mean that we have to jump to number 2 or 3. If you need something that's on the bottom of this list, tell us, and we'll get on it right away.
All right, so
I included that chain casing. That was on one.
Okay.
On one, I included that in the capital plan as well. You had that. You had written that you needed a chain casing top and bottom for the RBCs. So I put that in the capital plan as well.
apparently he doesn't have the same document that we have in front.
But this is UL.
Or he does
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, it was in the email. I forgot.
Yeah, and then
Sorry
it
about
was an
that.
email he gave me.
Well, I just want to mention for Brenda and Lenny, the way this works is sewer budget that we're going to go to next, they transfer $1 million or so every year over to the wastewater plant. That's how that works. So it's really, when we talk about the sewer revenue, this is just a transfer function.
That's a transfer function.
I think that she wanted to get at this while Ryan was still here.
Right.
Okay.
I was following along with what I had on the.
Does anybody have a problem with this budget as talked about?
No.
No.
Everything good?
Okay.
Then I just want to say that everything on this list is correct on order of importance.
Oh, okay.
I just
good.
want to let you know that.
All right.
So
Thank
that's
you.
all right.
Good.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting if you wish. Okay. So, Lorinda, where do we go now? Page one?
Let's see. Let's go back to page 2.
So you're forgetting page 1.
Yeah, just forget that for now.
Okay. Page 2.
Okay. We've been using a good number for our service charges. Nothing's really changed as far as new homes go. We've been using the same number now, 10 for the last few years. if you switch to, let's see, my...
You're talking about tapping fees.
Yeah, on the tapping fees. Now, I know I gave you guys my cheat sheet, as I call it, my worksheet. If you pull out the one, it says scenario 2 at the top. That figure I have in the middle, it says revenue required.
Yeah, she's got a
Turn to
photocopy of her handwritten
page.
cheat sheet
Yeah.
in there somewhere.
It's in there somewhere. I don't know what page it was on.
Here it is. 43?
43, yeah. And I gotta find my place in here.
43 is scenario 1, correct?
Scenario 2 I'm going with.
That should be 44.
Yes.
Now, what line item are you referring to? The metered sales?
I'm referring to the revenue required. If you turn to page 6.
This is water revenue.
Water revenue. Okay, and if you turn to the expenses on page 6 of your budget,
Yeah.
line item 927, where it says water, GLWA,
Yeah.
water rate increase from them will be 3.32%.
That's based on your worksheets.
That's based on the worksheet that they get, yes.
So
on what they
that's the
gave
one.
me.
That's the 1,346,000.
Yes. That's the revenue that we required. That's up about 2.6% from last year.
Okay.
Okay?
So
That's
based on, back to page 2, your metered sales, the rate increase you're proposing is to pass through only the Great Lakes Water Authority rate increase you expect.
Thank you.
Okay?
Well said, yes.
So nothing more.
Nothing more. Nope, that's what it'll generate, that extra, that 97,200 to cover it.
Everybody got that?
Okay.
So again, for Brenda and Lenny, we'll get a rate increase request a couple months from now from the finance director to bump the rate, that 3.32%.
3.32%.
Does that take care of your water revenue page?
Yeah, because penalties are penalties. It's always the same. We budget 30,000, 25,000, 30,000, and we generally get that. So miscellaneous income is just the miscellaneous stuff that we come across. Okay, all right, let's, where do you want to go from here? I don't want to jump to
How
sewer.
about page 3?
You want to jump to sewer revenue?
Well,
All right.
why not? Take them in order. Enough of this jumping around. Bottom line is there's no rate increase, right?
Correct. Bottom line, no rate increase. We're going to stay at $3.60 a 1,000 gallons.
Want to talk about previous year's resources?
You can.
Well, from the discussion we had earlier today, to simplify things, we have a fund balance in the wastewater treatment plant of $3.4 million. This will cover all the capital improvement costs. All these
Okay.
capital improvements are going to be pulled out of that fund. That's what it amounts to. No
And-
sewer rate increase.
And pulled out of the previous year resource.
Well, it's
We'll cover
it's
that,
the
right?
accumulated fund balance.
Yeah, so that'll cover those.
Yeah. Each year, and you're going to come across it, we are required to put $105,000 by the revenue bonds that were initially issued. We put $105,000 away, plus profits that have occurred over the years in the sewer fund. So the accumulated fund balance to replace parts at the wastewater plant is $3.4 million. You could make a note of that. It's $3.4 million.
0.4 million.
That's retained earning, as it's called. That's the fund balance. That $800,000, if we spend it all, will come out of that fund balance.
Okay. Okay.
Everybody with that? That's what we've always done. Okay, any questions?
On the water revenue, going back, you had 150 previous year resources, so we're dipping into the...
Well, and that's to cover some capital improvements too, Jim, that we're going to come across.
Okay.
There's that 150 is, we'll get to the water, but it's a
Get to it,
PVC
yeah.
valve replacement, Jim.
Okay. But no, I just want to make sure we're using previous year resources. We won't have enough income.
And Jim, the fund balance in water, I talked to Ann today, is $500,000.
Yep.
A little over that.
Okay.
Okay. Page 4.
Page 4 is for your refuse. is for the refuse revenue. That hasn't really changed. It's remained the same. As you know, that we've, with our extension of the contract with Waste Management, they held their same rates, so that hasn't changed at all. Okay, page number 5. Hold on.
Now, that's the money that, again, when you get your quarterly bill, you got a refuse amount.
Yeah.
That's that $792,000 that for refuse. That hasn't changed. Now we're into water expenses, right? Page 5?
Yep. Okay. I just want to point out the big stuff. We left legal fees for the contract for Great Lakes Water Authority. We left $20,000 in there because we still don't know where we're going with that. That was one of the big ones.
That's the bottom.
That's the bottom
line
one
item.
on page 5.
Stay on page 5.
Okay.
Up at the top on the salaries.
Okay.
What's happening up there?
That's always been split between 70 on the water side and 30 on the sewer side.
What are the increases? What is that?
Increases will be from the contract amount for next year for the union, and also part of my salary will be in there as well.
Jim, we never get into that salary. That's up to you guys, the township board. There's enough money in there to accomplish whatever you guys want to do.
I had, is there something changing on the part-time?
No, I think we just increased that amount just to cover it because we went over it this time. We budgeted 21.
Okay, no.
We're at 22,246.
I had heard that there might, we might be sharing an employee rather than hiring part-time. You hadn't heard that?
No.
Thank you. Okay. Good enough. No, another department told me that.
So you guys are talking two different things. You answered the question on overtime. She was talking.
Yeah, he's talking about
asking
salaries on
about
overtime,
part-time.
709 for part-time. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Okay, I'll talk to you about that.
I don't understand.
What I had heard.
I'm like,
okay.
I don't know who
All
I'm
right.
sharing.
Well,
No one's told me
okay.
yet. So, okay.
All right.
We plugged in that.
And overtime, you were just saying.
And we're just plugging in that. Yeah, we're just plugging that in because we're already over.
And I want to jump in again for the sake of because you haven't been through the budget before. When it comes to all these health insurance, all these insurance and employee benefit things, that's something we don't get into in detail.
Yeah.
Right.
What we look at are the major items we're dealing with, capital outlay and so forth, and make sure that we have a balanced budget format.
Yeah, 703 through 724 are the salary, the benefits, the
and all
work,
that stuff.
so which comes really from Ann rather than from
than from me.
Lorinda.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, and everything else on here is pretty much the same. Postage, office supplies, so on and so forth. Auditing fees are still $2,000. We leave engineering fees the same. So if you want to switch, any more questions on that page? No? Okay, let's move on to the next.
Page 6.
Okay, hold on, 828. 828. Administrative expenses, 4% of the revenue.
Now, you want me to address that?
Yeah.
Sure.
Let's talk. Yeah, talk about that because it's a change.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. Traditionally, I learned this last year from these enterprise funds. If you look at the water, sewer, refuse, they're enterprise funds. We generate revenue for them. In the township here, they've always budgeted 2%. Our general fund of the township, it's not our problem, this commission's problem, but I became aware of it at township board meetings. The general fund is hurting for revenue. Most communities, and I've worked for a few, budget at least 5% of the utility revenues towards administrative expense. What that means is you have the township attorney, the township clerk, the township manager, the treasurer's office who collects the water sewer bills. That is to defray those costs. I mean, that's the theory behind it. When I listened to the discussion at the township board about the general fund, and then I realized we were only at 2%. I said, we're not paying our fair share to help the general fund. This between this and sewer and refuse, this would generate over $100,000 new money to the general fund, which is half their deficit problem, right, Jim?
Correct.
So I thought going with 5% was too much, particularly for right now. And what happened here is our current debt for water revenues, our current water debt has dropped, our debt payments between interest and principal have dropped $149,000 this year. So this will more than make up for it. The point I want to make is we can increase the administrative expense without affecting rates.
Without affecting rates.
Okay? And Jim, I think you concurred with that?
I absolutely concurred with it. In fact, I am encouraging that all of the funds, not just DPS, should be doing this.
Of course, I'm going to just say this, recreation has always been a negative budget.
But recreation possibly
They're
uses
not
at the
enterprise
least.
funds. These are enterprise funds, Jim. They have a separate fee schedule that people, if you take advantage of the service, you got to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I distinguish.
And I fully concur with it.
Okay.
I think it's the right thing to do.
All right.
Okay, the next, where we talked about the increase on the water side. Maintenance on the building, we're looking at maybe doing some parking lot repairs. I increased it a little bit over last year. Maintenance on the water mains, we have had an increase in the number of water main breaks over the previous year. We're up almost 30% last year. So I increased that line item by $25,000. We did pretty good on our stop box repairs last year. We did 44. So I'm shooting for 50 this year. So that's what the $25,000 is for.
So I want to make sure is everybody in the right line items here? So
that's on
item number 932.
Yep.
And 932-050. The main repairs, the stop box repairs, and then the contractor amount that we pay contractors for water main repairs.
Correct. So I increased.
So those went up from, those two figures were $150,000 in last year's budget, and they're now being increased to $175 each. Everybody okay with that? We're still in a balanced budget situation. It's realistic. Okay.
Okay, and everything else is basically stayed the same on this page. Any other questions? Page number 7. Okay, we're going to the capital outlay. As you know, we've done a water supply study, and we're required to keep it updated. So we have ongoing analysis of the water system. So I asked Ohio for a budget number, and we use a budget number of $25,000. The water assessment management is like what we've done on the sewer side, only it's on the water side, where we do GPS and GIS mapping. We do criticality analysis of our system, and we need to have a 5-year and a 20-year capital improvement plan. So we are budgeting about $50,000 for that. The next item, during the flow testing, we found that the PRV at the Free Bridge wasn't really working very well. But we budgeted $150,000. We'll be able to take that out of the retained earnings, so we won't have to increase, more than what we're getting from Great Lakes.
What is that?
When?
Replacing the PRV valve?
The PRV, yes.
It's replacing it?
It's replacing it.
I think that's a clow, isn't it? Why don't you have the people come out there to repair it and test it?
The who?
Last time we had that representative come out, remember how many main breaks we had right after he attempted to adjust it?
Yeah, but if it's not working, you get their representative out there to find out why it's not working.
How old is it, Les?
It was put in 1983. No, I take that back. It was put in after that, way after that. The problem we had was the Parkway main overrode the Bridge Road main. So they put that PRV valve in there to equalize it, so that the flow would not, because it was creating a rust problem on the north end of the island. And when he put the PRV valve in there, it balanced it both ends.
And if you remember correctly, Les, Barry had asked us to have the Clower representative come out and look at that, because the flows historically for the last 12 years at least have been 90-10. 90% coming from the north end, 10% from the south end. So there is an issue with that device. And when that representative was here, because me and you were with him, he stated that the device really needs to be upgraded or replaced at that time. And we've done nothing with it since then. And we're still at that 90-10%. And according to the flow studies done during the asset management plan, they're saying there's an issue. They said it was either there's a main line valve closed on it, which we checked the 24, and they're all open. So they said it's the PRV. And so Sahio's recommendation is replace it with a new, just like what we have at the toll
other
bridge.
end, yep.
Okay.
Pressure reducing valve.
Yeah.
So Detroit's pushing 80, 90 pounds. We reduce it to 57, so it doesn't blow our mains out of the ground.
Blow everything out.
Les, this is an item you guys know about. I don't. And I wonder if you have questions on it. You want to talk with John further about it? Les?
Oh. Not now.
Well, not now. But I mean, do you want to follow up with him follow up with you at some point?
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
All right. So you're going to talk with Les, and if need be, so I'll, and get into a discussion on it.
Certainly.
For now, it's in the budget. If you can always take it out. I mean,
Right.
Just not do it. Okay? But if we need the valve replaced,
Money will be there.
should replace it. What's the meter house roof?
That was if we had to replace the PRV. Originally, Rains Engineering thought we would have to lower it through the roof, but there is substantial beams inside the building that we'd be able to lower it down into the basement area, so you will not have to take the roof off to install the PRV.
Is this still in the budget then?
We hacked it.
No, we hacked it this afternoon, but she just didn't remove it.
Okay, so that is going to be
That'll
out.
come out.
20,000.
That cross out the $20,000.
That'll come out. The only other big purchase I have is I've put in here a pickup truck. Truck number 10 has almost 100,000 miles on it. And it's used for the seasonals. We also use it for conferences as well. And recently we've been using it daily. So I put in 15,000 on the water side and 15 on the sewer side. So that was the last big ticket item I
Would
had.
that be, I'm assuming from the 15,000 are we talking a 250, a 150? What
This will be a
size?
150, yeah. Yeah, I should have put 150 next to it. I didn't think of that. And that's the last big ticket item on that one.
And then I was talking with Ann about, if you look at 994 and 995, which are the bond principal payments and the bond interest payments, you'll see from the 2017, by the way, this column that says total line, that really, in my mind, should be 2018-19. That's this proposed year's budget.
That's what it should have in my mind too, Bill.
Yeah. If I were,
Because if you look at that,
if I were a
you
township
just pick up a
trustee.
piece of paper, you don't know what it is.
As a time, you learn, you adapt quickly to find out what means what, yeah.
Let's ask one. He's in the audience.
If I were a township trustee, I would insist that be relabeled.
Sure.
So,
What's the, yeah, anybody looks at it.
you know, Jim, it's hard to follow.
Oh, no,
So I would-
and
I said
actually,
that last year, too.
There's no reason for it.
Need to change somebody's habits.
Just a nomenclature.
He's
It's just the top of the
learned
page.
to adapt, he said.
Well, I find that strange. That he's not a good adapter
No,
anyway.
he's not.
Anyway, what I want to point out is under the bond principal payment, if you look at the 17-18 budget, it's 668, and it's dropped to 543, which is a savings of 125,000. And then the bond interest payment dropped 24,000 from 274 to 250 for this proposed year. So that's that 149,000, Jim, that we picked up. So we won't have those bond payments again.
Right.
At least they should plateau at that level. They'll vary a little bit, but that's a big good deal for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So therefore, in my mind, the big issue is we're just passing through what the Great Lakes Water Authority we think is going to do to us.
Right. They won't really know. We won't really know until July. And they had two different scenarios because they have 3 communities that do not have the master meters like we have. So they're penalizing them, so to speak. So wait to be seen. So I took the worst case scenario I applied here.
Okay, so we can only do better. Yeah,
Exactly.
we're not going to. Okay.
Exactly.
Excellent.
Okay, page 8.
Oh, wait, does anybody have any other
Other
questions? This
questions?
is the water budget.
Sorry.
It's balanced. There shouldn't be any other issues, right? Everybody okay with it? Okay.
Okay.
Sewer.
Operations, page 8. The big one would be the administrative expenses for obvious reasons.
That's at the bottom of the page.
That's at the bottom, 828.
4%.
Yep, and we lowered the legal fees too by 80%. All right, anything else on that page that sticks out?
Well, the legal fees were lowered because of the discussions with the DEQ
Yeah.
on the administrative consent order, right?
Yep.
Can you tell us the status of that? It's all resolved, Jim?
It's yeah, it's on. I mean, in principle, we're in agreement, the 2 parties. I'm not sure that we got the actual written, but yeah, it's been settled. So
we can cut that budget drastically.
Yes,
$50,000 to $10,000. That's the legal side of it.
And quite truthfully, that was one of the best things we did was to hire Todd and bring him in. He really helped us out, so it was well worth it. But and we got a very good settlement on that.
Okay, page 9. Let's see. Our maintenance on our main repair, as you know, we've gone out for bids on the televising and cleaning of our sanitary sewer. We've plugged in that number of $150,000.
It's under item 932.
Yeah,
at the top of the
932.
page.
Sorry, I should tell you guys that before I start yakking.
So what we did on that last year under 932, you see where it says repair? So we budgeted $100,000 for repairs that we might discover when we do the cleaning and televising.
Right.
In the past, it was all together. Last year, we took that to $250,000. And our last decision on this is we're going to clean and televise up to $150,000 and cut it off.
Right.
Okay? I think we're beyond that issue. Okay.
Okay. As you can see on line item 970, that's the other half of the truck. That's the other big ticket item on this page. Then we have our bond principals and bond interest payments. You have any questions on that page?
Page 10 is refuse, and nothing's changed
Yeah,
there.
nothing's changed on that one, so,
Except for administrative expense.
right. That's a helicopter? Oh. Okay, and we've already discussed page 11, so,
That's the macerators at the treatment plant.
So there's not much, from year to year, there's not a lot of change except for capital outlay in these,
correct.
unless we have a major administrative expense.
Yeah, that was the big change this year, really.
And,
nice job.
I think the point is we're not raising the sewer rate, and water's just a pass-through.
Right.
So, everybody okay? So I'll entertain a motion to recommend the budgets as presented to the Township Board.
So moved.
Is there support?
Yes.
Moved, supported that the water, sewer, refuse budgets that we've dealt with tonight be approved as discussed by us. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Okay.
Oh, Ember Court. Ember Court update. John, you're up.
Yeah. Were you out there today? Truck down there.
We're still in negotiations with the neighbor to the west. Lurinda and I and Rains Engineering met with that customer last Friday or the Friday before?
I think it was the Friday before.
2 weeks ago we met, and they're concerned about one large poplar tree, so they asked that their arborist give them his interpretation of what would work best. He was unable to make the meeting. So while we were discussing the issue, that customer asked if the existing line to the east that the neighbor had installed himself would be large enough to accept that volume of water coming from that area. So Rains is re-engineering that. And when we get that decision, it's either going to be use his line or go head on to her property and give her some native species type trees. She wasn't happy with arborvitaes or evergreens. She wants native. So we're waiting on our engineers to give us an update on where we're going to put this line.
Okay, so the neighbor has a line that might be usable, and is he or she they're okay with using it if it works?
All indications is the volume of water we're trying to drain is not going to come through that pipe. But to appease the lady that's trying to work with us to the west.
No, I understand that. Good job.
Well, Jim, I'm not very hopeful about this.
You don't think it's going to?
I'm not. We've tried to work with the property owners. The one guy, which would be the furthest property that we originally wanted to go on to the east, he's absolutely refused to cooperate. The house that the one we're talking about is in the middle. They're willing to cooperate, but they've had foundation problems because of water, and our engineers are a little skittish on trying to put a line through adjacent to their property. I'm not. I think we can do it. It's not deep.
Mm-hmm. Right.
We might have to.
How deep?
Just a couple
About
feet
8 inches.
2 feet.
But here's the deal, John. In the way is a stone planting bed, but I think you can replace it. I mean, we may have, one way or the other, we've got to do some landscaping. But anyway, so we said, all right, well, let's move to the next property to the west, which is this lady that's got all these concerns about the trees. I'm frustrated that we haven't accomplished anything in the last 4 months. Nothing.
We shall
might as well be honest
have
about
a
it.
definite answer for you.
We might as well be honest about it. I personally don't think you're going to get it.
Well, the weather, you got a weather deal too.
Well, I don't think the lady's going to cooperate, to tell you what I think.
We'll wait until a foot of snow melts this week.
That's going to be worse.
Yeah.
Then they'll be back, yeah.
Negotiate early next week.
Right.
Then everybody will be wanting to cooperate.
Right.
Well, right now you can't see the drains at all.
Well, yeah, but wait,
Because the snow's covered
wait
it.
until a foot and a half of snow melts in the next couple of days.
I know several of us have been up there many times.
It's going to be a different
No
story.
avail. So I don't know what the answer is going to be.
Yeah, you were out there.
Yeah.
If you want the water out, everyone's got to participate.
And every
That's
time
right.
we've gone up with the engineers, they want us to look at some other route.
I'm all for it. Let's go down this way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're talking about
Yeah.
50 feet, move it over 50 feet over here. And,
Yeah, they don't realize that it can't just be anywhere.
Why don't the engineers like that?
They do.
there's all kinds of excuses.
Well, are we going across their property, or is this open space property?
No, it's their property.
It's our property.
Yeah.
We want to get to Stout from that
Okay.
You got to go through.
from that wetland, Les, and you got to go through somebody's yard. There's all kinds of trees and buildings and foundations in the way. I will just say, between the two properties we're talking, I thought, to me, there's all junk trees. And even if we had to go back and spend $10,000, $15,000 replanting with good stuff, it's still cheaper than some of the other alternatives.
Right.
But apparently that hasn't flown because what do they have? Some kind of thistleberry or something? What do they call it?
I'm not real versed on.
You told me today.
Yeah,
Buckthorn.
Buckthorn. Yeah.
Some kind of hybrid buckthorn. So, unless we're going to condemn property, which
You don't want to do that. There's a lesson to be learned.
so we'll see what happens, but I don't have any hopes. It's going to be easy. All right.
Okay, the next update is on the West River water main and pavement replacement bids. Bids were received.
That's page 48 of your packet.
Yeah.
Yeah, page 48. We received and reviewed the bids, opened on January the 25th. We received 4 bids from, is it okay if I announce the bidders' names?
What's
Well, I don't see the merit of that.
Okay.
They got it in front of them.
Anyways, Raines is currently evaluating the bids before making their award recommendation, so they're still checking out. We should have something at our March meeting. The update on the sanitary sewer cleaning and televising bids, they were opened the same day on January the 25th. We received 5, and they are also currently being reviewed, and they're checking the bidders' references and their qualifications. So their recommendation for the qualified lowest bidder will be forthcoming, probably at the March meeting. And that's all I have.
Yeah, I would just say this. This company that's a low bidder, I won't mention them, on the TV cleaning. When they bid it a couple years ago, they had never done this before.
But willing to try.
And so I don't know, supposedly they have references now, but I don't know that we want to be the guinea pig. So the engineers are looking at that pretty strong.
Right.
So, anyway, nothing's easy. Any questions on that?
I got one question.
Yes, sir.
John, what was the bid for the sewer truck?
$259.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 250.
Les, are you saving all your materials on that topic? Because I know,
Yeah,
I got a whole file on them.
I got it, but I didn't bring it with me.
I know. I'm smiling here. Okay. Chairman's report, I have none. Been a good discussion tonight. We'll go around the table. We'll start with the other end, Mr. Budney.
I have nothing, thank you.
Brenda?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Lenny?
No, sir.
John?
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's.
Phil?
Nothing further.
Les?
I have nothing.
Nothing on a sign or anything like that?
Hey, don't start.
Bill.
Don't start.
No, they still haven't fixed it.
Thank you for.
I'll entertain anything from you, John or Lorinda?
Happy
That's
Valentine's Day.
actually,
Hold on.
What?
well, actually, I do. I know you want to go home, really? I just wanted to comment that snow emergency went well. It was declared at 2 p.m. We were finished with every street on the island at 1 a.m. Saturday morning. And please move your cars off the street. We had to go around a lot of cars, which creates an issue for all your neighbors because now all the snow's in the middle of the road because we had to go around you. So please move your cars. And then also, Wayne County followed up Monday evening. They came and plowed every street on the island.
Yeah, I saw them.
So that was a great help to all the residents. So I'd like to show our appreciation to the Sibley Yard. They're doing a great job.
Mm-hmm.
And also, please assist the DPS and the fire department by shoveling around your fire hydrants. If you have a fire hydrant in your yard, do everybody a favor, including yourself. Get it cleared out. We're coming around, but it's taking a long time to make progress. So please help us out.
Okay, so I don't want that comment to be lost. What you're saying is that if people have a lot of snow around their fire hydrants, it'd be helpful if you could dig some of it away.
Correct.
Okay, I hope everybody's
God
got
forbid
that message.
they need it.
And you've been out doing some of that.
Correct.
Today, I know.
And we've also employed Campo Brothers, 2 laborers, to assist with that to try and speed things up.
But I've noticed it's not just snow; it's the frozen tundra is what we
Yeah.
what we have.
Yeah.
A lot of work.
Now, it may thaw a little tomorrow. I don't know, but
Next 2 days, hopefully.
we'll see.
Yeah.
All right.
I got one thing to say about the snow being pushed out into the road. Matter of fact, during the snow emergency, they even mentioned it on the news, on the Detroit news. Channel 4 said something about them. He says a $500 fine for pushing snow into the road. And that one woman said, don't do it.
Right. It's a problem.
It is a big problem. And coming down here tonight, a huge pile right up here on Meridian. People just don't understand. It's your snow. We don't want your snow. You keep it.
I have a question. John, have you caught people that do the snow plowing doing that?
Yes.
What have you done with them? They know better.
Wave.
What?
What are you going to do? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to call the police department, tell them to...
Well, yeah.
Somebody's got to... You say what you want done, we'll make it happen.
If you see a guy that's in the snowplow business leaving snow on the road, the police ought to be called on him. They ought to get a ticket. Right?
I'd just like
If it's
to...
the police's responsibility, I would say it'd be the weighmaster's
well,
responsibility.
there you go. I was going to say, if you'd like to talk to Chief Porcelli about who he wants me to call...
I guess I don't know what ordinance they'd cite him under, but they're...
State of Michigan ordinance.
They're littering, they're obstructing the road. And they should know better, people that are in that business.
Creating a hazard.
I think you should at least turn in their names to the police department and have them make a phone call. Threaten them. I've seen it done, and it's not good. I don't see the problem with that, John. Little enforcement. As Les would say, give me that sign and we'll go on. All right, enough of this.
Yeah, I think you've been here too long.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn this meeting at 9:30.
And I wholeheartedly support
All in
that.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.